Hello folks, and thank you for checking out this new video. Unfortunately, I've not had many jobs that I can film and present on the channel, so I thought I'd take a minute to have a chat and give you my pearls of wisdom on customers. My entire business is based on customers, obviously, and in the past I started this business in 2012, so sort of 13 years in the job, and Heather and I tried to work it out how many customers I'd had, and we think it's around 7,000. So and of course customers are people, and people are many and varied in character and type. So I wondered if I could just, if you'd just indulge me and let me tell you about some of the customers that I've had. Basically, you are asked to come into someone's house where they're relaxed normally and where they're themselves. And I really love it when you go into someone's house and you're working away, and if you're there for a certain period of time, they forget that you're there and they start to become themselves, and the family, you know, interact. And some people, you know, that I've worked for quite multiple visits are relaxed with me anyway, and it's a sort of privilege to be in their home and be accepted. And you know, your skills have wristbanded you into the property, and but you know, I like to think that I'm a reasonably affable sort of person, and you know, I can win people over. But there are, as I say, customers are people, they're many and varied. Now, it's interesting that fairly often, not even often, sometimes I get people, and it seems to be 30-somethings, men, and you do your job and you do it well, and the lady appreciates you more. Maybe the lady is more appreciative of the home than the man. The lady appreciates what you're doing. The husband is a little bit miffed. And I've had this quite a few times where I've just been doing my job, and for some reason I rub up the wrong way the man in the house, and I can only put it down to issues with their age. If they're an office person, the psychology of the office person is no, they're no longer the hunter-gatherer in the traditional terms, and their sort of machismo is put out of joint by a tradesman being in the house, and I don't think it's anything to do with, you know, any romantic misappropriation. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with the man's nose is put out of joint, and to the extent that some jobs I've lost them because of this. The fella has turned on me and become super critical, and lost the job. So I mean, you know, you just got to put that down to experience. I did work for a lady once where she waited till her husband went to golf and I was to come round and do the job, because he kept saying to her, yes, he was going to do this job, and he never did it. So she took it upon herself to get her tradesman in, myself in, and to be honest, it didn't look good. You know, as soon as he goes, I come. But it was nothing like that. And a few times I've not even got to meet the fella. The ladies engaged me, and hours or days before I'm to come, it's cancelled because the man finds out that I'm coming, and they say, "What are you doing?" I was going to do that. She goes, "You never did it. I got somebody else in." "Well, I'm going to do it now." So you get cancelled, you know. So such is life. So obviously, when you're in someone's home, you've got to behave in a manner that makes them feel comfortable. So you know, and then to be over friendly is wrong, and to be miserable is wrong. You've got to find that middle ground. When I first started, maybe this is more to do with me and my sort of slightly needy character. I used to, if I had started to like some customers, I would think that they're my friends. And if, say, I was there for 3 days, so the first day I'd established myself. By the second day, we were all getting on, and by the third day, you know, I was thinking, oh, I could be really friends with these people. You know, they're not just customers; they could be long-term friends. But then it comes to the time of payment, and sometimes you get customers who are nicey, and when it comes time to pay for payment, all of a sudden their characters completely flip over, and they become super critical. They become the antithesis of what they have been, and it shocks you, and you think it's not fair, and you wonder what's going on. You wonder whether it's something that you've done. When it isn't something you've done a good job, you've been friendly. You wonder whether you've been too friendly. And so, I mean, all I can put this down to is the legacy of the rogue tradesman. Or perhaps the lady believes somehow that she's being robbed. I'm not quite sure, but it is a shock. So there is a school of thought that says don't become too friendly, because these things might happen in the end. So try and protect yourself. You know, interesting. I've got a degree in psychology or anything, but it's, as a tradesman, be aware of not being overly friendly. It's a business transaction. It's a business relationship, and yeah, I mean, I work on my own a lot, and I do like to chat, but don't do it too much. So, having had 7,000 customers, I've realised that the vulnerabilities of the tradesmen are not to be disconsidered. You talk about, people talk about rogue tradesmen ripping off customers. I have been ripped off myself. As a self-employed person, you're vulnerable to this, and so you start to learn. This is how critical the survey of the job is, because you're not just going to survey the job and the mechanics and the logistics of the job. You're surveying the people. The people are surveying you as well, but it's a reciprocal thing. So I mean, I've had quite a few in the latter part of my career now. I think I'm able to wheedle out at the survey level the possible vexatious customers, people that you think you get a bad feeling about them, and you get this feeling that come time to payment there's going to be problems, and it's desperate when you get these situations. You know, it brings you sleepless nights. It's literally that bad. I mean, I had this fella, I'd been to see him. His wife was lovely. He was a businessman. She was a businesswoman as well, and so I went to the house, and I was to refurbish the ensuite shower in the daughter's bedroom, and the couple as a pair interviewed me, And I quoted. Then the wife said, "Oh, my husband wants to see you again." So I had to make another appointment. So I went again, and the lady greeted me, and she said, "My husband's waiting, in the dining room." So I go in the dining room, and I see this husband there with a notepad in front of him, and I thought, I knew there was going to be trouble as soon as I saw the notepad. So anyway, I was sort of slightly puzzled as to why I was brought back for a second time. And then he started to tell me about how the genesis of his own business and how successful his business was, and how generally successful he was. And I was thinking, what's this guy, I could be watching YouTube at home now. Why have you dragged me here? And when I got home, I sent a text to his wife to say, "I'm sorry, but I don't want to quote for the job. I'll withdraw my quote." It's difficult to word something like this, because what you're saying is, I don't like you. So you've got to be tactful about it. And I put something about due to character mismatches, I don't think I should quote on this occasion. And the lady sent me a text saying it was a bit of a shock, but in the end she appreciated my candidness. So there's a few people like that. I quoted another fella. He was an ex-copper apparently, for a shower, and he wanted some ridiculous half refurbishment of this shower, and I told him that it could be a waste of money, because in a short amount of time, short amount of years, you would be spending all the money for a total refurb, and this half refurb will be a waste of money. So I quoted him, and then he rang me again and quizzed me about things, and I did some not even fast talking. It was just talking, refuting his ridiculous ideas, and politely. And then I find that I go into Clifton Bathrooms a few days later, and they tell me that this fella's been in and he's looked at some of the products, and he spent the entire time slagging me off. And the most salient fact for me was that he wore a cowboy hat. And need you say more? That's all you need to know. So he rang me up again and started questioning my and I'd known by then that he was basically calling me an idiot in public, in the place where I get all my sanitary wear, and it annoyed me. So he started quizzing me again. So I said that I would adjust the quote. Then when I thought about it, I sent him a text saying, "Look, I withdraw my quote." And it was as simple as that. It was going to be trouble. There was a clash of personalities, and it was a sizable amount of money, and I didn't want to have my future sleep patterns interrupted by this bell end. So I've got to be careful about slagging off customers, but ones that go and slag my name off, denigrate me in where I'm known and liked, is yes, very annoying. What else have we got? Then I had another couple who lived in a static home, and I was to do some install a vanity unit, and they told me stories of the previous plumber that his behaviour and his work was lamentable apparently. So anyway, I did the work there, and there was a leak on the toilet. So I went back and I repaired the leak, and I flushed the toilet 10 times on the trot, and there was no visible leak. Couldn't feel any leak. As far as I'm concerned, there was no leak. I say to the bloke, "Any chance of payment?" Gives me the thumbs up. So when I get back, he tells me that he's had no intention of paying me until he was satisfied that there was no leak. Now, this is not good for a tradesman's cash flow. You can't have that. You can't have an indeterminate amount of time to wait before you get paid. I mean, I don't have rolling cash flow. I use the previous profit. the profit from the previous job to fund the next job, and you can't have that. And then he rang me up and he tried to give me some advice on life and the way I presented myself. And I said to him, mate, you live in a caravan. There's no way I'm ever going to take advice from you. You know, and so they said that they were going to send me a percentage of my bill. So I said, look, if you send me anything that's less than my bill, I shall send it back to you. I shall get my bank to reverse it. So then they ring me up again and say, look, this doesn't fit very well with us. We don't allow tradesmen to do things for free. We want to pay you. I said, look, you pay the full amount or not, or nothing. So anyway, I ended up walking away from it. And then when I calmed down, I started to think about what their psychology was. And I think that it was to do with them being little people. They were little people that lived narrow lives. And they saw a tradesman, because they told me that they'd seen all my reviews on Google and on my website, and you know, that they thought I was an impressive person. And the only thing I can think of is that they were such chip on the shoulder little people. They just wanted to bring me down. They wanted to exert some power upon me. And then my advice to all tradesmen is no payment is worth giving someone else power over you. And it's happened to me quite a few times. And when people start oppressing you and trying to force their values on you, walk away from the money. Then they're totally disempowered, and you get the power back. And then, more importantly, whenever I'm in a situation like this, I have sleepless nights. I wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I cannot stop ruminating about these people that have ripped me off. It's a major problem that I've got. I've got ADHD, and part of that is rumination. I lay awake at night. I don't sleep very well. I lay awake at night thinking about how I can get back at people that have done me down. Even some of them are even dead. So what's the point? You know, it's torture what you have to go through. So if you can filter out these dodgy geezers right from the start, you know, you save them and you a lot of angst. I'm getting stressed out now. I feel myself being red. I'm reliving it. So to bring this little chat to an end, I want to end on a happy note. My sort of career, well, I haven't really had a career. I've had a series of jobs that have been crisis managed in leaving to immediately start another one, which I didn't care what it was as long as it wasn't the last one I had. So I mean, I started in electronics as a teenager. So I was assembling printed circuit boards, making printed circuit boards, wiring up electronic systems, weighing systems for roundtrees, etc., Terry's. Then I went into engineering. I went to work for my father, so I went into engineering, and I was an engineering fitter. And then I went self-employed as an engineering fitter, installing measuring equipment. And most of my life I've done joinery as a hobby. When I was in the Isle of Man, I went to work for a builder for a couple of years. So, and it was working for that fella that made me realise that what I really wanted to do. You know, I mean, I'd had, before I went self-employed, before I moved back to York, I was the maintenance man in a big office block, and 500 staff, and I sort of hated every second of it. I mean, I was always in bands, and so I used the plant room downstairs as a rehearsal room, and I used the customers. I used the employees of the building life assurance company it was, as customers for weekend work, and that's how I started my learning my craft as a property maintenance man. But this job is the best job I've ever had. I literally love every second of it, and I cannot wait to get to work in the morning. And you meet all sorts of people. Now, I've just written a few things down here. So I work for young families. I work for struggling young families with young kids, and the parents are tired and grumpy, and they're so tired and grumpy that they can't muster the energy to do any work on the house. So when I come in, you leave, realizing that you've taken that load off, and it's such a thrill. I work for very, very poor people. A note to other tradesmen: you can't really make a living working for poor people solely, because they just don't have that income to pass on to you. So if you live in a poor area, travel to more wealthier areas to ply your trade. I've worked for rich people, and my one thought about that is that I'm very much an inverted snob, and I have sort of fallen out with a few rich people because of that. Because if they talk down to me one tiny tenth of an iota, I'm straight out the door and say goodbye to the money. That's one of my insecurities. I've worked for widows, ladies that have lost their lifelong partner, and although they are sad, I can see that they have now got control of the reins of their own environment, and they start to want to do things perhaps their partner was minorly dominating, or they were a little bit subjugated or whatever. And now the what underpins their grief is that the fact that they've now got this ability to design their own environment. So you get in on that, and you can see that they're enjoying this independence, albeit in grief. More recently, I've been working for couples where one of the elderly partners have got dementia, and it's a horrible thing to witness, because I did a job for this lady, and the husband had dementia, and he was like a little boy. He'd regressed, and he just followed me around and watched me and smiled. And then she as he broke away from her, he came to watch me, and then she would drag him back, and you could hear the irritation in her voice. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to witness it, because it's the person's body that they fell in love with, but they have gone. They've long gone. It's really, really upsetting. And similarly, couples where one partner's got cancer, it's the bewilderment in the cancer sufferer's face. They're trying to put on a brave face, but you can see the fear, and then all the pressure is on the healthier partner, because they've got to take on the role of nurturing the person with cancer and helping them, but having to do it all because that person doesn't make decisions, and you can see the pressures on a couple like this that have been dealt this blow of ill health. And the other thing is lonely people. You see lots of lonely people, and you worry about that. You're angry about with the neighbours. Why are these people lonely? You start to quiz them about their relations. Why aren't they coming to save them from this loneliness? And then the saddest thing is lonely people who just think it's their role to be lonely, and that's their lot in life, you know. Anyway, I'm supposed to be cheering up here, aren't I? And then the type of household that really upsets me and frightens me are customers that are hoarders. You go into their house and they have a tiny little narrow walkway where they can just go, and there's stuff piled up high. went to this lady's house. She said she wanted me to put some blinds up, and I couldn't. There was clothing piled halfway up the side of the wall, and obviously she wanted me to fit blinds to close the rest of the world out. And to my shame, I made an excuse and I left. Sent her a text saying I can't help it. And I rang up social services the next day, and I asked them if it was a breach of confidentiality if I tell the social services about this lady. And they asked me if she was thin. I said no, she wasn't thin. They said they were going to try and do something about it. But you know, people with mental health issues. I went to a young man's. He was a late 30s, and he'd not been out of his house for 5 years. He'd been stabbed, he was told me, and therefore he never went out of his house. And behind his front door were boxes. It took him a minute to clear the boxes out to open the door, and I had to climb over some boxes. And I told him that it was a fire hazard. And at the end of the trip, I went to the local fire station to see what they could do. And they said that they could go and visit him and help him out. And halfway through me talking to this fireman, I burst into tears because of this lad was so bright and intelligent. He was locking himself away. It was almost too much to bear, you know. So, anyway, thanks for watching.